When Mom died, I thought the hardest part would be losing her voice, her laughter, her presence in that little house she loved so much. I never imagined the real pain would come from my own brother. The day after the funeral, he said he needed to handle the paperwork, and I trusted him because that's what Mom always taught us, family first. I didn't question anything. I didn't ask about the will. I didn't ask about the house or the savings. I just assumed we'd sit down later, talk like adults, and figure things out. But 2 weeks passed, then 3, and suddenly he stopped answering my calls. When he finally replied to a message, all he wrote was, "There's nothing to split." No explanation. No meeting. No documents. Just cold words from the man I grew up sharing a room with. I felt something crack inside me, but I didn't want to believe he would do something so cruel, not right after we buried our mother. I went to Mom's house and found the locks changed. Her furniture gone. The photos removed. It looked like someone had erased her life overnight. The neighbor told me my brother had sorted everything out. My stomach twisted. Something was wrong, deeply wrong, but I had no proof, no documents, nothing to stand on. Just a broken sense of loyalty. I spent days calling lawyers, trying to understand how everything could legally vanish. Every single one told me the same thing. Without a copy of the will or proof of wrongdoing, it's tough to fight. And that's when I started thinking maybe my brother really had outsmarted me. Maybe I was just too late. I remember sitting in the parking lot of the local credit union, staring at the front door, unsure why I even came. Maybe to close Mom's account. Maybe to feel closer to her. Maybe to accept defeat. But the moment I walked in, everything changed. The banker looked at me, froze for a split second, and then asked a question that sent a chill straight down my spine. "Sir, are you Mark?" And from the way she said it, I knew that whatever my brother had done, he hadn't covered everything. I hesitated before answering her. There was something in the way she said my name, like she'd been waiting for me, like I was the missing piece in a puzzle I didn't even know existed. I nodded slowly. "Yes, I'm Mark." Her eyes softened, but not in a comforting way. More like a person who suddenly realizes the truth they were told doesn't match the truth standing right in front of them. She motioned for me to follow her to a small office. The kind with cheap carpet, a muted lamp, and a desk too clean to be used often. My heart pounded as she closed the door behind us. "I'm glad you came," she said, lowering her voice. "We tried contacting you, but the number we had wasn't active. Someone said you moved out of state." My brows tightened. "I never moved." She looked even more troubled. "Then I think we need to talk." She turned her monitor slightly toward me and typed in my mother's name. Her account screen popped up, familiar numbers, balances, deposits. But then she clicked another tab, one I had never seen before. One labeled, Beneficiary Profile, Confidential. My breath caught. There I was. My full name. My birth date. But right next to it, in bold red letters, the words, Status, Deceased. My stomach dropped to the floor. What is this?" The banker swallowed. "According to the documents your brother submitted, you passed away 3 years ago." I felt the room tilt. "He told the bank I was dead?" "Yes," she whispered. "He brought a notarized statement of death. He said he was handling your mother's affairs because you were gone." My hands trembled as I gripped the arm of the chair. My own brother had erased me. Not just from the inheritance, he had erased me from existence. On paper, I had never survived long enough to claim anything. "He also closed a secondary account," she added carefully. "One that belonged to your mother, but had your name on it as co-owner." My mind went blank. "There was another account?" She nodded. "A very large one." I felt heat crawl up my neck, a mixture of shock and something darker. Anger. Betrayal. A fire spreading inside my chest. "And the only reason I'm showing you this," she said softly, "is because the signature on the death statement, it doesn't match yours. Or hers." For the first time since Mom died, I felt something shift. Something sharp, something alive. My brother hadn't just stolen from me. He had forged my death to do it. I sat there frozen, staring at the screen like the numbers might rearrange themselves into something less horrifying. But they didn't. My mother's account, an account I never knew existed, had been drained almost completely. The balance now showed less than $1,000, but the transaction history told the real story. Large withdrawals spaced out over months. Transfers routed through another bank. And all of them authorized by the same forged signature. My own. The banker turned the monitor back toward herself, almost as if she felt guilty letting me see it. "I'm not supposed to show beneficiaries' internal notes," she said quietly, "but I needed to confirm something. When you walked in today, you didn't look like a dead man. I let out a breath that wasn't quite a laugh. More like disbelief breaking into pieces. My brother told you I died. He really did that. She nodded slowly. And he claimed he was acting on your behalf. He also pushed for immediate closure of all accounts, saying it was your mother's final instruction. Final instruction. The words made my skin crawl. My mother, who left handwritten notes on every grocery list, who tucked money into birthday cards with tiny hearts next to my name, would never instruct anything quietly. She would never hide something from me. And she would never trust only my brother to carry out her last wishes. This wasn't oversight. This was strategy. What happens now? I finally asked, my voice lower than I intended. The banker folded her hands. If you dispute the documents and prove you're alive, which you clearly are, this becomes a legal issue. Potentially a criminal one. Criminal. The word tasted strange, heavy, dangerous. I could almost see my brother's face in my mind, confident, smug, so sure he had outmaneuvered me. He probably believed I was too soft, too trusting, too detached to ever fight back. Maybe that had been true once. But not now. I want copies of everything, I said. The forms, the transactions, the notarized statement. All of it. She hesitated only for a second before nodding. I'll prepare the file. But, Mark, you should know something else. I looked up sharply. Your mother's second account, she said, lowering her voice, wasn't just a savings account. Her fingers hovered over the keyboard. It was an investment account. And before he emptied it, it had over $400,000 in it. The air left my lungs. My brother hadn't just taken everything. He had taken my mother's entire legacy. $400,000. The number echoed in my head like a bell I couldn't silence. I tried to speak, but my throat felt tight, like something inside me had locked up. My mother had lived modestly her entire life. Coupon books, old sweaters, careful budgeting, the same worn purse for 15 years. I always assumed she didn't have much, that her life was held together by love, not money. But she had been planning something quietly. Something for us. Something for me. And my brother took it all. The banker printed out a thick stack of documents, each one filled with numbers, signatures, dates. Every page burned another hole in my chest. I'm sorry, she said softly. I don't know the full story, but I can tell you this. She set up this account long before her health declined. She named you as co-owner from the start. Co-owner. Half of that money was legally mine even before Mom passed. He didn't just steal an inheritance, he stole years of her sacrifice. I took the papers with numb hands. My brother's signature appeared over and over, bold and confident. Mine, fake, shaky, sloppy, was plastered on documents I had never seen. Page after page of lies. He hadn't hesitated. Not even a little. When did he withdraw the money? I asked, my voice finally returning. She checked the screen. 3 days after your mother passed. 3 days. Before her funeral. Before the flowers had wilted. Before I had even learned how to breathe without her. A sickness twisted in my stomach. He didn't wait. He didn't grieve. He moved straight to the bank, straight to erasing me. The banker placed a gentle hand on the desk, her voice careful. Mark, he tried to bury you on paper. Men don't usually go that far unless they're afraid. Afraid of what? I asked, almost whispering. She held my gaze. Afraid you'd find out what he took, and what your mother meant for you. A heat spread through my chest. Not rage, not yet. Something colder, sharper, more focused. For the first time, I wasn't drowning in betrayal. I was planning. I gathered the papers, thanked her, and walked out of the bank with my mother's truth under my arm. My brother thought I was dead. He was about to learn how wrong he was. I sat in my car for a long time, the stack of papers resting on the passenger seat like a quiet witness to everything I never knew. Cars passed in front of me, people walked by, the world moved normally, but inside me something had shifted. Something deep. Something permanent. I wasn't grieving anymore. I wasn't confused. I wasn't broken. I was awake. I pulled out one of the documents, the notarized death statement he used to declare me gone. The signature was embarrassingly bad. He hadn't even tried to mimic my handwriting. It was rushed, sloppy, the work of a man so confident in his scheme that he assumed no one would ever look twice. That was his mistake. My brother had always been the golden child. Charming, loud, good at twisting situations until he looked like the hero. When we were younger, he lied easily and people always believed him. I realized now that he never stopped. He just got better at hiding it. Mom always told me, he has a good heart. He just loses himself sometimes. No, Mom. He didn't lose himself. He chose this. I drove to Mom's house, our house. The locks were changed, but the front yard still had her old rose bushes, the ones she planted when Dad died. I stood there quietly, letting the memories wash over me, her watering them at sunrise, her humming softly, her telling me that some things bloom even in hard soil. She saved that money to give me a cushion, a chance, a future. And he erased all of it. I pulled out my phone and zoomed in on the documents, scanning every detail. The notarization was real. The notary stamp belonged to a local office. That meant he had walked into a room, looked a stranger in the eye, and declared me dead with confidence. I took pictures, saved them, organized every file. This wasn't just theft. This was identity fraud. This was legal forgery. This was a crime. And he did it calmly, believing I'd never know. But now I did. And the weight of that knowledge no longer crushed me. It fueled me. My brother thought taking the money was the end. He had no idea. It was just the beginning. Driving away from Mom's house, I felt a pressure build behind my ribs. Something between grief and fury, something that made my hands tighten on the steering wheel. I had always been the quieter one, the one who stepped back when things got messy. My brother counted on that. He built his plan around the idea that I wouldn't push back, wouldn't fight, wouldn't question him. And maybe he was right, before. But not anymore. I didn't go home. I drove straight to the notary office whose stamp appeared on the forged death document. The small building sat between a hardware store and a laundromat, the kind of place people barely noticed. Inside, the air smelled like paper and cheap disinfectant. A woman in her 50s looked up from her desk and smiled politely. "How can I help you?" I handed her a photocopy of the notarized statement. Her eyes scanned it and her expression changed, not dramatically, just a subtle tightening around her mouth. She glanced at me and then back at the paper. "You signed this?" she asked carefully. "No," I said. "But it says I'm dead." The silence that followed felt heavy. She stood, walked to a filing cabinet and pulled out a large binder. "I can't give you copies," she said quietly, "but I can confirm details." She flipped through pages until she found the date of the notarization. Her finger tapped the line containing my brother's name. Not mine. And the reason for notarization: verification of beneficiary death for estate processing. My stomach twisted. "He said you passed away in a car accident," she said softly. "He provided an obituary clipping." I nearly choked. "What obituary?" She shook her head. "It wasn't from a newspaper. Looked typed. Homemade." Every new detail stabbed deeper. "He also insisted it was urgent," she continued. "Said your mother wanted everything handled quickly." Urgent. Of course he said that. He needed the money before I even knew it existed. I thanked her and stepped outside, the late afternoon sun burning my skin. The world looked normal, but everything in me had shifted again. This wasn't just a greedy brother taking advantage of grief. He had built an entire lie. A fake obituary. A false identity. A death certificate. A forged signature. And he'd done it under the assumption that nobody would question him. I unlocked my car and sat inside, breathing hard, a cold clarity settling over me. He didn't just steal my inheritance. He buried me alive on paper. And now, I was going to return the favor in a way he never saw coming. I drove home in silence, but my mind wasn't quiet. Not anymore. Every detail, every forged line, every lie he'd constructed played through my head like a movie I didn't want to watch but couldn't turn off. My brother didn't make a mistake. He made a plan. A deliberate, calculated plan to erase me from Mom's life and rewrite the story so he came out the only son worth remembering. I sat at my small dining table and spread everything out: bank statements, forged forms, notary notes I had jotted down, photos of Mom's empty house. I organized them into piles, labeled them, cross-checked dates. The more I saw the pattern, the sicker I felt. He had prepared this long before Mom even got sick. He waited. He watched. He studied how the system worked. And he used her death as his chance to take everything. Hours passed without me noticing. At some point the sun set and the room grew dim. I didn't turn on the lights. I didn't move. Just sat there, staring at the evidence of my own erasure. Eventually my phone buzzed. A message from my brother. "Hope you're doing okay. Mom would want us to move on." Move on. Those two words ignited something sharp, almost electric, inside me. Move on from what? From being declared dead? From losing my mother's home? From having an entire account stolen right out from under me? I typed back slowly, "We need to talk." His reply came instantly. "About what?" I stared at the screen, my pulse steady. He thought I was still in the dark. He thought I was grieving too hard to notice what he'd done. He thought I was still the brother who forgave him every time he lied, cheated, or manipulated. Not anymore. We need to talk, I repeated. In person. He agreed without hesitation. That was good. He was cocky. Confident. Too sure of his victory to suspect I was building something far more dangerous than anger. I closed all the documents, slipped them into a folder and set it beside the front door. Tonight I would rest, not because I was tired but because tomorrow I needed clarity. Tomorrow I wasn't meeting him as a grieving brother. I was meeting him as the man he tried to bury. And he had no idea what was coming. The next morning I woke up before sunrise. I didn't sleep much, but for the first time since Mom died my mind felt clear. Sure. Focused. I wasn't stumbling through grief anymore. I was walking toward something with purpose. Something solid. Something final. I showered, dressed, and placed the folder of evidence into my backpack. Not to show him, not yet. Just to feel the weight of the truth against my shoulder, a reminder that I wasn't imagining any of this. He had built a lie. I had built a case. We agreed to meet at a small cafe Mom used to love. It felt strange walking toward a place filled with memories of her warmth while preparing myself to face the person who had destroyed everything she left behind. But maybe that was fitting. Mom believed truth always surfaces eventually. And today I was the one dragging it into the light. He was already there when I arrived, sitting outside with sunglasses on, sipping an iced coffee like he had nothing in the world to worry about. When he saw me he smiled. That same smile he used when we were kids. The one he flashed right before he lied, right before he manipulated, right before he won. Long time, he said casually. You look tired. I sat across from him, keeping my voice steady. We need to talk about Mom's estate. He leaned back, pretending confusion. There wasn't much to talk about. She didn't leave anything. Don't, I said quietly. Don't insult me by pretending. He raised an eyebrow, amused. What's that supposed to mean? I studied him. The relaxed shoulders, the calm tone, the confidence of a man who believed he'd buried every trail. He had no idea the banker had talked. No idea the notary remembered him. No idea I had files proving everything he forged. You changed the locks on Mom's house, I said. You closed her accounts. You emptied an investment account I didn't even know existed. His smile faltered. I leaned in slightly. And you declared me dead. He froze, just for a second but long enough for me to see fear break through the arrogance. He recovered quickly, laughing. That's insane. What are you talking about? I didn't blink. You know exactly what I'm talking about. Behind his sunglasses he went still. For the first time he realized the grave he dug for me was now the one he was standing in. He set his drink down slowly, the ice clinking against the plastic cup. That tiny sound cut through the silence like a warning. He wasn't smiling anymore. He wasn't pretending confusion. He was assessing me, the way he always did, calculating what I knew, how much I could prove, and how quickly he needed to pivot. You're being dramatic, he said finally, his voice lower than before. Mom didn't have much. You're grieving. You're confused. I saw the documents, I replied calmly. All of them. His jaw tightened almost imperceptibly. What documents? I pulled nothing out. I didn't show him a single page. I just held his gaze and said, the ones you forged. The ones with my death on them. The ones with the notary stamp. The ones with your signature right next to mine. His fingers twitched against the table. Attell. You're lying, he said, but now his voice shook. No, I said softly. You are. He looked away, pretending to follow a couple walking past, but I could see the panic building behind his eyes. He had counted on the system believing him. He had counted on me being too broken, too passive, too trusting to notice the truth. But he hadn't counted on people talking. He hadn't counted on human conscience. And he definitely hadn't counted on me waking up. What do you want? He finally snapped, dropping the act. There it was. The real him. Not the grieving son. Not the responsible older brother. The opportunist. The thief. The man who thought he could rewrite the world around his lies. I want the truth, I said. He leaned back, scoffing. The truth is Mom didn't leave anything. End of story. You emptied her investment account 3 days after she died, I said. $400,000. Gone. His face drained of color. He hadn't expected me to know the amount. You stole her legacy, I continued. You stole what she saved for us. And you erased me on paper to do it. A muscle in his jaw ticked. You don't get it, he muttered. I needed that money. No, I said coldly. You wanted it. And you wanted me out of the way. He looked at me then, really looked, and he realized something he never believed could be true. I wasn't afraid of him anymore. I wasn't broken. And I wasn't done. He exhaled sharply, running a hand through his hair, a nervous habit he hadn't shown since we were teenagers. For a moment, it looked like he wanted to confess, to spill everything, to collapse under the weight of what he'd done. But then that familiar coldness slid back into his eyes, the same coldness I'd seen when he lied his way out of trouble as a kid. "You don't know what you're getting into," he said quietly. I didn't blink. "I know exactly what you did." He leaned forward, elbows on the table, voice low and bitter. "Mom was sick. She wasn't thinking straight. She trusted the wrong people." "You mean she trusted you?" I said. "Her own son." His eyes flickered, anger, guilt, something else. "She didn't want to fight. She didn't want things to get messy. She told me to handle everything." What? I could hear the cracks forming in every word. "Then why did you need me to be dead?" I asked. He opened his mouth, then closed it. I pressed harder. "Why fake an obituary? Why forge my signature? Why rush to close the accounts days after the funeral? If Mom wanted peace, why did you create the biggest mess possible?" His jaw clenched. "You weren't around. You didn't help. Everything fell on me. And you compensated yourself by stealing $400,000? I said. "Interesting how grief works differently for you." That hit him. Art. He slammed his palm against the table, not loud enough to draw attention, but loud enough to reveal he had lost control. "You don't deserve it," he hissed. "You were always the favorite. She babied you, defended you. You think she saved that money for you? For us. She didn't. She saved it for you. Everything was for you." His voice cracked at the end, not from love, but from resentment that had been rotting inside him for years. "So you punished me for being loved?" I asked. He looked away, swallowing hard. "I balanced things. That's all. Balanced things." As if declaring me dead, robbing our mother's lifetime savings, and erasing me from legal existence was just balance. At that moment I realized something chilling. He didn't think he had committed a crime. He thought he had corrected an injustice. And that made him far more dangerous than I expected. His words hung in the air like poison, and for the first time I understood the depth of his resentment. This wasn't just greed. This wasn't impulsive. This was something he'd been feeding for years, quietly, privately, letting it twist him from the inside. In his mind he wasn't a thief. He was a victim. A victim taking justice into his own hands. "I balance things," he repeated, calmer now, as if that explanation made perfect sense. I leaned back, studying him. "Mom didn't see me as more. She just saw you both differently. That's what parents do. But she loved you." He scoffed, a bitter laugh. "Love doesn't pay bills." That sentence hit like a punch. Cold. Empty. Something my mother would have cried to hear. "So you decided," I said slowly, "that the best way to honor her death was to loot everything she worked for, erase your own brother, and move on with your life?" He raised his eyes to mine, and for a brief second I saw something that made my stomach twist. Pride. "Yes," he said. "Because she gave you everything. Attention. Support. Time. And what did I get? Pressure. Expectations. Nothing was ever good enough." I stared at him, stunned. "You think she saved that money for me because she loved me more?" He didn't answer. His silence was answer enough. I let out a slow breath. "You didn't steal money because you needed it. You stole because you hated the idea that Mom still believed in me." His jaw tightened. "She didn't know you like I did." "No," I said gently. "She knew me exactly. And she knew you too. That's why she put my name on that account. Not to punish you, but to protect something from you." He flinched. It stung him. "Good. You think you're a mastermind?" I asked. "You think you covered your tracks?" His eyes narrowed. "You forged a death. You forged signatures. You created a fake obituary." I leaned closer. "And you used your real name on every single form." The blood drained from his face. "You think Mom favored me?" I continued. "Wait until the police see what you did. Let's see who they favor then." He swallowed hard. "You wouldn't." "Oh," I said softly. "I definitely would." His mask cracked. For the first time fear showed, real fear. He finally understood something. I wasn't here for a conversation. I was here to deliver consequences. He stared at me like he was seeing a stranger. Not the quiet brother he could talk circles around, not the kid he used to bully into silence, but a man who had finally stepped out from under every shadow he'd cast. His confidence wavered. His breath grew uneven. And suddenly he wasn't the one in control anymore. "Look," he said, lowering his voice, glancing around. We can work something out. I almost laughed. Work something out? You declared me dead. He leaned in, desperation bleeding through. I didn't think you'd ever know. I needed space. I needed a new start. You don't get what it's like to be the older one. Everything was always on me. The older one? I repeated. You're 5 years older, not a parent. And even if it was hard, that doesn't give you the right to strip away our mother's entire life savings. His eyes darted toward the street, like he was searching for an exit. Fine. You want the money? I'll give you some. Some? I echoed. You took $400,000. He swallowed. I don't have all of it anymore. Of course he didn't. My stomach tightened. How much? He hesitated too long. I made some investments. Meaning he gambled it. Or spent it. Or wasted it on whatever he thought would make him feel like the man he always envied me for being. I sat back, my voice turning cold. This is bigger than the money now. You committed fraud. Identity theft. You faked a death. You created a fake obituary. You forged signatures. You lied to a notary, to the bank, to the estate office. His eyes widened with each word as the reality of his crimes finally caught up to him. You're going to ruin our lives, he whispered. You already ruined them, I replied. I'm just shining a light on it. He shook his head slowly, frustrated. I can't go to jail, Mark. I can't. You should have thought about that, I said, rising to my feet. He grabbed my wrist, a desperate, shaking grip. Please, just tell me what you want. I pulled my arm away. I want accountability. His face crumpled. And trust me, I added softly, that's the part you're going to hate the most. His breath hitched. For the first time he realized the nightmare he planned for me was now turning back toward him. And I wasn't letting him escape it. I walked away from the table, but he followed me, his footsteps uneven, his voice cracking with panic. Gone was the arrogant man who strutted through Mom's house like he owned the world. Gone was the manipulator who forged papers with steady hands. Now he was just a frightened man chasing the brother he tried to erase. Mark, wait, please, he called behind me. I kept walking until we reached a quieter corner of the street. I turned around slowly, giving him one chance to speak. One chance to tell the truth without hiding behind excuses. He stopped a few feet away, chest rising and falling in shallow breaths. I'm sorry, he said, the words rushed, shaky. I didn't mean for it to go this far. I stared at him. You planned it? Every piece of it. He rubbed his hands over his face, pacing like an animal trapped inside its own guilt. I thought I deserved something for once. You were always the one Mom praised. You were always her favorite. I was invisible. You weren't invisible, I said. You were just angry at the wrong person. He shook his head violently. You don't understand. When Mom got sick, I was terrified she'd leave everything to you. Everything. And I'd be left with nothing. So you took everything, I said softly. And left me with nothing. He winced as if the words hit him physically. I panicked. I made stupid decisions. But I can fix it. I can make it right. No, I said, shaking my head. You can't bring back Mom. You can't undo what you did to her legacy. And you can't unforge the documents you signed. He stepped closer, desperation swallowing whatever pride he had left. Mark, listen. If you go to the police, if this gets out, I'm finished. My job, my life, everything. You can't destroy me over money. It's not about money, I said calmly. It's about the fact you killed me on paper. He froze. You erased me, I continued, voice steady. You took my name, my identity, my future. And you expected me to stay silent forever. He swallowed, eyes glossy. I was wrong. I know that now. Just tell me what you want. I stepped forward. I want the truth. Every detail. Every lie you told. Every dollar you moved. Every document you signed. All of it. And I want it recorded. His face went pale. That's your only chance, I said. Because the next person I talk to after you. I let the sentence hang in the air. Will be the police. And for the first time he understood I wasn't bluffing. I wasn't broken. I wasn't the brother he used to manipulate. I was the man he brought back from the dead. He stood there trembling, the reality settling into his bones. For years he controlled every narrative, family arguments, financial decisions, even how people saw him. But now, for the first time, he was the one cornered. The one stripped of excuses. The one forced to face the truth. He looked around helplessly, like he expected someone to step in and save him. But we were alone. Just the two of us and the grave he dug with his own hands. I can't record anything out here, he whispered. Someone might hear. That's the point, I said. This isn't a secret anymore. He wiped sweat from his forehead. Come to the house. We'll talk there. Mom's house. The house he'd emptied. The house he'd locked me out of. I hated the idea of walking through a place where her memory had been wiped clean, but I agreed. Not because he asked, but because I wanted him on familiar ground, the same ground where he committed every betrayal. Let him confess surrounded by the silence he created. The drive there was quiet. He kept glancing at me like he expected me to punch him or scream or break down. But I stayed calm. Revenge wasn't emotional anymore. It was precise. When we pulled up to the house, I felt my chest tighten. The yard looked emptier. The blinds were drawn. The home that once smelled like Mom's cooking now felt like a stranger's space. He unlocked the door and stepped inside first, hesitating as if suddenly ashamed of what he'd done. I didn't touch her room, he muttered. A lie, I could see that instantly. The photos were gone. The cross above her bed missing. Her dresser stripped. He had sanitized her memory. Sit, I said, pulling out my phone. He sat at the dining table, the one where Mom used to serve Sunday breakfast. His hands fidgeted in his lap. His breath was uneven. Start talking, I said. From the beginning. He swallowed hard. I took the documents from her drawer when she was in the hospital. I forged your signature on the beneficiary forms, and the death statement. And the obituary? He nodded, eyes filling with guilt. I typed it myself. And the money? His voice cracked. I transferred it to my account. All of it. Silence filled the room. Then I pressed record again. Now, I said, tell me why. His next words would be the final nail in his own coffin. He stared at the floor for so long I thought he might stay silent forever. Then he inhaled shakily, lifted his eyes, and spoke in a broken voice I had never heard from him before. Because I couldn't stand it anymore, he whispered. All my life I felt like a shadow. You were the good one. The gentle one. The one Mom trusted. The one she believed in. And no matter how old I got, I always felt like I was competing with a ghost of who she wanted me to be. His confession spilled out, not as an apology but as an unraveling. When she got sick, he continued, she talked about you constantly. How strong you were. How proud she was of who you'd become. She kept saying she wished you lived closer. That she wanted to see you more. And I realized, she wasn't talking about me anymore. So you punished me for being loved? I asked again, this time not angry, just stunned. He wiped his face with both hands. I didn't know how to deal with it. I felt like I was losing everything. My job was falling apart, my debts were piling up, and then Mom died. I panicked. I thought if I didn't take control, I'd end up with nothing. You took everything, I said quietly. You left me with a fake grave. He sobbed once, raw, ugly, desperate. I know. But the sound didn't move me. Not this time. His tears weren't for Mom. They were for himself. For the consequences he never expected to face. I can fix it, he pleaded. I'll pay you back whatever I have left. You don't have anything left, I replied calmly. We both know that. He collapsed back into the chair, defeated. I ended the recording and saved it. Then I stood up. This doesn't end here, I said. You committed multiple felonies. You forged documents, committed identity fraud, stole from an estate, and declared me dead. I'm not burying this. He looked up at me with bloodshot eyes. Please, Mark. I'll lose everything. I held his gaze. You already lost everything the moment you signed your brother's death. The house felt colder as I walked to the door, the weight lifting from my shoulders for the first time. Outside, the air was clean, the sky clear, and I felt something I hadn't felt in weeks. Freedom. In the end, justice wasn't loud. It wasn't violent. It wasn't dramatic. It was simple. He put me in a grave on paper. I pulled him into the truth. And the truth buried him deeper than he ever expected.